Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before you get too sucked into this awesome interview, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of entertainment, because I am here with the one, the only, Albert!
Sup?
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Doing real good. It's good to be talking to you.
It's good to be talking to you, too.
Yeah, man.
But before we get John too much, I gotta know, what is your favorite dad joke?
Oh, all right. It's where does a general keep his armies?
I don't know, where?
In his sleeveys.
I don't get it.
Armies like his troops. Armies like the things that he has his hands at the end of.
Oh, God.
Sleeveys. yeah.
Army.
No, it's actually, you know what? That's actually great because one of my favorite things about telling dad jokes is having to explain them in detail.
Explain them?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I got to give you that. That's the first one I didn't get upon answer. You win the Super Dad Joke Award if there ever was one, my friend.
Woo-woo.
Got me. Oh, man. Albert, what would you say is your favorite underutilized word?
Ubiquitous. Ubiquitous is hands down my... I like it because it means widespread, and I don't feel like it's as widespread as it should be.
Truly, ubiquitous is not a ubiquitous enough word.
Yeah.
In the English lexicon, to be sure.
Yeah. Anything like that, yeah.
What do you think, I guess on the inverse of this, since we're talking about ubiquitous being ubiquitous, what word do you think is ubiquitous and perhaps shouldn't be?
Like is, when we're in California, I mean, maybe it's not as regional as I think it is, but like I find myself putting it into sentences all the time unless I'm being super self-conscious of it. But I really feel that it seeps its way into every sentence that I speak sometimes.
Yeah, it's a placeholder.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't remember. I think I was talking. I was like, 1 or 2 episodes ago, I was talking to Brian David Marshall about this, I think, and it kind of came to me, and something I'd been thinking about a little bit is that we kind of conversationally, were worried about sort of like passing the buck to since at least in the United States, so much of conversation is kind of a battle. Like, we're passing the buck and we're giving our opponent the time to speak, and by doing so we're giving them, effectively the advantage, or it feels like the advantage if you haven't capped your sentence correctly. So if you're still mulling over a thought but you don't want to pass the buck, that's and like just like any kind of like almost sound non-word,
right, something to sort of cue the other person that we're not done with our thought.
Yeah, I'm not done yet. You can't go. Yeah,
it's sort of like conversationally filibustering each other.
Yeah. Conversationally filibustering. That is such a great way of putting it. Yeah, absolutely. Just did it right there. Yeah. It's so wild.
Yeah, it's like interesting. I find that I often, I'll just pause, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'll just freeze on the end of something, and it is an invitation for a lot of other people to jump in, and then I'll finish my sentence, and often feel like other people think I'm interrupting them, when it's no, I just wasn't done with that sentence. Like that wasn't a finished thought. I know I look like I was done, but I need maybe just to add more likes.
You Obama'd them. Obama had this I remember watching this thing when Trump was like doing well. Not to turn this into like anything political, but I think, and I hope most people would agree, although sadly probably plenty don't, that Obama was a much better public speaker than Trump was. I think that's like just meeting all the, if you look at the average criteria of what a good public speaker was. And one of the things that Obama did was, instead of inserting words like a normal conversation, he was very good at orating. And so he would, because he didn't have to worry about, somebody usurping the buck, so to speak, he would just pause and use a lot of that kind of,
use that open space.
Yeah, use that open space for weight.
Yeah.
And Trump he used a lot of, conversational speaking because that's what he was used to, because he's not a politician.
Yeah, right.
Showing in many ways, and especially in his speaking style, is he would speak as if he was trying to argue or if he was trying to push something through, which makes sense given his, background and like the areas in which he worked. But those are two different styles. One of them came across a lot more sophisticated, calm, presented, and the other one came across a lot more kind of like cloying and, digging for your attention, which I mean kind of was.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Interesting to look at.
Yeah, it's cool to see that sort of play out on that scale.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about cool's the right word, but it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe cool isn't the right word. Yeah. But just interesting.
It's a great 4-year experiment.
Yeah. Well, and just that something as simple as a conversation, like that's as personal as two people can get most times. Mm-hmm. And then to see that's the micro scale, right? And then to take a look at this sort of macro scale where people are orating to a country, a nation, right? Like, and how that dynamic plays out in both those scenarios is interesting. Yeah. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a movie you will never skip when channel surfing?
A movie? I honestly, I haven't had cable in forever.
All right, when falling through the YouTube or just perusing the old Netflixes or something, that if it pops up on the old,
a movie,
movie, TV show, something like that.
Well, I mean, I've got like a favorite movie. I don't know how much it's on cable.
What's your favorite movie? We'll go with that.
Yeah. It's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
Oh yeah. You will not see that channel surfing.
No, it's just not on. But I had to have seen it somewhere. Like I don't remember
I think it's on Netflix.
Maybe I think it is now, but I don't remember. I remember seeing it a lot when I was younger. I don't remember consciously like renting it. I mean, maybe it was one of those things that was for a period when I was young on HBO a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'd go and watch a lot of movies when I was at my grandparents' house, right? Mm-hmm. So if that was always on, that would probably be what I watched every time. Because it's just fantastic. It's like
it is a wild and crazy time.
Yeah, it's just like visually, right? Like I've always been someone that's very visual. And the fact that it's like, that's very much its language, right? There are all these like sort of abstract visuals sort of rooted in, practical people and things. Yeah. And just kind of absurd. Anyway,
I mean, it's like it was it Terry Gilliam's first movie, or it was his first one?
Right? Yes, because he did Brazil, but I think I can't remember if he did that before or after.
This is his third movie.
Okay.
Well, fourth actually, I guess.
Okay.
So he technically did Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah,
and he did Jabberwocky in 1977, Time Bandits in 1981, which I actually kind of
so good.
confused this one, and then Brazil in 1985, and then Adventures of Baron Munchausen in 1988. But this is like one of his earlier works, and it's just like really showcasing how awesome his brain works and just how nutso it is. It's so fantastic. As one of those movies that I think like only Terry Gilliam could probably make. There's so much, like, he's one of those handful of auteur nutter directors that somehow makes his vision the most like it is on the page to the screen. There's so many people that get either sidelined by execs or by money or whatever, and like, he's just like, I don't really care, I just want to do my thing.
Right.
And like is able to also like get great people to work with him, which is really cool. A lot of people that are this kind of nutso either can't describe themselves or whatever, and like I feel like the issue
a lot gets lost in translation or in ego or in some there's always going to be something, but he does have this way of distilling his vision into another medium outside of his brain.
It's so great. Love it. Highly recommend. If you can find a copy, definitely check it out.
Oh yeah, so good. And Time Bandits, I love Time Bandits.
Yeah, Time Bandits is great too. You cannot come up with a funnier, more WTF, movie. Yeah. They're so great. They just like, wait, what? It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's one of those like very original like it's just so original, right? Like there was nothing like
the way I kind of would translate it for a viewer is like, if you liked, this is like one of my favorite cartoons, so I kind of always go back to it. It's like, if you liked Adventure Time, I think that's like a good corollary of something that is just like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, it's cool, but also, who came up with this nutso idea? It's like, that's Terry Gilliam. If Terry Gilliam made a cartoon, it would probably be something like
Adventure Time. Yeah,
it would just be like completely like paradoxical. It'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd see that. I'd watch that. I'd stop for that every time.
So other than watching Baron Munchausen, what would you say is your biggest everyday temptation?
My biggest everyday temptation? Like, explain that a little bit more.
So for some people, it's been like chocolate. For other people, it's been, for BDM, it was like, just doing a quick run of like Slay the Spire. For I think their last guest, it was cheese poofs. Just something that you shouldn't do and you don't want to necessarily do, like in your frontal lobe, but like the back of your brain just wants to scratch that itch.
Gotcha. So it's a sort of like,
for me it's McDonald's for me it's McDonald's breakfast. That stuff is like cocaine to me.
What in particular? Are you a McMuffin man?
I always get at least two breakfast burritos and at least one, I think it's bacon egg McGriddle.
Nice.
It's my go-to.
That's your go-to.
Like crack.
Yeah. I get the itch every once in a while. It's usually a McMuffin with orange juice and those hash browns. I don't know how I just forgot the word hash browns, but that's my, every once in a while I'll just wake up in the morning and be like, shit, I really need.
Would you say that's your biggest everyday temptation, or is there
coffee.
one a little bit more common?
Coffee, hands down.
Coffee.
Like I need to start my day with caffeine.
No,
like I can do it without,
that's an addiction. That's not a temptation. Temptation is something you can forgo.
Well,
somebody who drinks coffee every day.
I can forgo coffee.
Oh, you can.
You don't want to hang out with me after that. But nobody wants to hang out with me after that. And I can go without it. It's not pleasant.
I would say if we're going between those two, it sounds like McDonald's might be your temptation and coffee might be your addiction. There's nothing wrong with that. I think addiction gets a bad rap, which is a weird sentence to say. But
no, I agree. I agree. I think there's a lot of like stigma around the word, and just having something that, everyone wants to think that they can do whatever they want whenever they want. And, nobody wants to be admit to being in chains, whether they put them there or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many. It's interesting, the idea of freedom and the idea of being in control of one's own destiny is one of those things I feel like Americans especially like to hold on to so much.
So
when it's
tight.
like, buddy, it's not like your life isn't going to be worse for admitting this. Just accept the reality you live in. So I'm very much of the idea that like, there's plenty there's some that we can't control. There's a lot that we are that we think we're in control of, that we're unknowingly always going to do, like that is like predictable just because of who we are and who we've built ourselves into.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's so much outside of our control. So just accepting that, you can try and do whatever you want, but in reality, so much is like not going to, so much is going to go to this almost forecasted plan set forth by the universe, God, whatever kind of power source you want to believe the world runs on. It's just like, just accept that that's probably what's going to like end up making this decision. Like, okay.
Right. It's funny. I was listening to a book, wasn't reading. I don't read nearly as much as I.
What are words?
Right. But it was about social media and the way those like Facebook manipulates.
Oh, the algorithms?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, there's some of that too, right? Like we think that there's a bunch of people out there that are within our mindset, or that are thinking the same sort of things that we're thinking, but really we're just sort of being fed the things that we want to hear. Like, and that we have the freedom to do all these things, but we're really being manipulated and slowly driven to, I don't know, buy more smart cars or, you know, cereal with birds on it or whatever.
It's really weird, but at the same time, like, it doesn't always work, and I don't want to come across like some fatalist. I don't think everything is prescribed, but I think this idea of like agency is vastly overblown. This idea that you can do anything, that like at least I was like, you know, taught as a kid, and like the rest of the world, I believe that my generation was taught as a kid, is somewhere between overrated and overblown to an absurd proportion. So it's like somewhat, but also no. It's kind of like that. Sure, you know, it's like so many of those ideas in life. It's just like there's a grain of truth amongst like a heap of sand. You know.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, do I think that like people are putting robots in vaccines to manipulate me? No. Like, I don't. There's a fiction in that, right? Like, but there's
fiction, there's truth, and then there's reality.
Yeah, right. Or that, I don't really think that I'm being manipulated to the granular level that anybody cares what sort of cereal I'm going to eat, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, like, that's just the facts. Like, nobody cares that much about what I do to manipulate me to do much of anything, right?
Yeah, the big conspiracies in life have, like, inklings of truth, but the idea that they give a shit about certain amounts of people in the way that they do is just hilarious to me. Like there's so many conspiracies that are like, nobody cares about you that much. You're not like, very few people are that important to like the world or any one government. So it's like, you know, take yourself down a peg. Like, you're not at the top of the mountain yet, buddy. Like, just chill and enjoy the fact that you don't matter.
Exactly.
So like, you don't have to like worry about that kind of like celebrity, you know, government kind of shit. Like, that doesn't, you know, that's not coming down the pipeline at you.
Yeah, exactly.
But then do accept that, you know, there's some of these things, there's plenty of things, one, that are outside of your control, but also there are things that you're going to likely do that you didn't intentionally choose to do. Some of it is like, you know, building up over time. You know, we both have coffee every morning, and so to get up and have coffee wasn't really that much of a choice. It like was, in quotation marks, like we poured it in a cup and stuff like that. We were awake, but like half the time we're like barely paying attention to doing it.
Yeah, well,
you know, like that's just
the reality is whoever sold me this coffee, like they don't care that I'm drinking coffee. They care that their coffee is being sold, right? So just like with Facebook, it doesn't care what ad it pushes me to. It does care that it keeps me engaged, right? That it sort of like maintains your attention. So it's like
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a far more faceless.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it doesn't have so much of a wanted agency. Like, it doesn't care who is there as long as someone's there.
Exactly.
And you just happen to be that someone. Like, don't feel that targeted. For sure.
Yeah. This wasn't about you as in like you individually specifically.
You were just a meat sack that was there. That's all they wanted. They just needed at least one meat sack, and you were the meat sack that like today. Walked by. Yeah. Enjoy being the meat sack. Just go with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's your role now, meat sack.
Yeah. Growing up, did you have a favorite book?
Growing up, like how old?
Anyone that stands out before you graduated high school. It doesn't really matter if there was one or multiple in particular. Go with that.
Okay, I'll go for a deep cut. The Hungry Caterpillar.
The Hungry. Oh shit!
Yeah,
I hell remember that one.
It's a great book.
Yeah, isn't that done with like it's like kind of done with like splotch art, right? It's just like it's almost like they took and like dipped my mom's gonna tell how clean my place is by the fact that I'm forgetting what a sponge is. Like, it dipped a sponge in like ink and kind of blotched it on the page.
Yeah, it does have that look.
Yeah.
It almost has that like somebody was super haphazard with the watercolors look, where there's a lot of sort of colors and things bleeding together in very like kind of basic shapes.
Yeah.
That
book is awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So for lots of reasons. One, because it's an awesome book and it's pretty. I like colors. Two,
you're not a black and white kind of guy.
Yeah, nah. I mean, there's a place for it. Right? Like, I like making black and white stuff sometimes, just because it's fun. But
Mm-hmm.
With that particular book, when I was young, one day I was in elementary school, and my mom came.
You were only in elementary school for one day?
Well, there was this one day I was in. My mom came for some reason. She said I had a doctor's appointment. I didn't know why. I couldn't have been like maybe in the maybe kindergarten, maybe the first grade. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But so she comes and I'm freaked out because I think I'm going to the doctor's, right? No, she just pulls me out and we go out to lunch. We just went to lunch. And it was like we got to play hooky. Nobody knew. We went to this restaurant and below was a bookstore, and that's where I got the Hungry Caterpillar. Like it was this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, my mom was like, "Okay, don't tell your brothers. I got two brothers, an older and a younger. Don't let anyone know. We're just gonna. This is gonna be our thing. Don't tell your dad. Don't tell the school. Like, this was just I just wanted to have a day with you. It was the coolest thing."
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe a week later, I'm at home and my brother's like reading a book, and I'm thinking, I don't remember him having that book. Like, what's he reading over there? And then I see my other brother. Oh, he's reading the book. Oh, that's a new book too. Turns out my mom had done it with all of us and just told none of us. Told us all to keep it secret. But yeah, that's my favorite book when I was little.
Yeah, it's such a cool experience.
Yeah,
Mom, why weren't you that awesome?
My mom was cool. My mom did some cool shit when I was young.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
Yeah,
that idea of kind of like, just like it like teaches you at an early age rules are made up.
Yeah. Well, and just like like sometimes you can't be too serious about it. Sometimes you just play hooky and eat a good lunch and read a book.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's what life's about, man. Like, yeah. Now I just want to like quit my day's activity, go to a bookstore, and like have a sandwich. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like such a good day. That still is almost like my perfect day. Is to just like go out with somebody, have a good meal, sit down and read, watch people. Watching people is a big thing for me.
People watch, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite.
What's your favorite kind of place to people watch? Do you have like a
go-to,
like a general venue? Yeah, like do you like bars, parks?
Dude, so many places. Not bars. Bars. So a lot of I sketch people. I like to watch people and draw them as fast as I can. Mm-hmm. There's just something about that it's like
speed sketching.
It's like my collecting, right? Like some people collect cards, some people collect comics. Like I collect sketches of random people that pass by me at times. In that moment,
You're a grown-up Lilo from Lilo and Stitch. Just like random people.
Yeah, random people. So I guess it's two. I've got two favorite places I like to watch people. One is just like any coffee shop. Not like a specific one, any old coffee shop. One, because there's a variety of people in and out. People are all sort of doing their own thing, so they're not really paying attention to you while you sketch them from like a corner. And there's sort of there's also people that are captive. There's like the workers, right? Like, so they're always going to be in the sort of the same place at the same time. So if I don't have interesting people walk in, well, I still have this fallback of these people that are making everybody lattes, right? Like they're always going to be there. So that's like number one, easy access. Great place. And
with like with the addiction aspect, they're not going to pay attention to you if they sit down and drink.
As long as I'm feeding the machine,
sketching.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're just like caffeine, brain, go, and just like you have this.
Yeah, people are just kind of in their own bubble, right? They're focused. Well, they're focused, right? If somebody hasn't had their coffee in the morning, that's like the only thing they're thinking about when they walk in. They're just that, and they're like looking at their watch to see how long has it been since I ordered my coffee. How long until I get my coffee?
How long do I have to be till I'm late to work?
Yeah, exactly. Second favorite place to sketch is airports. Ooh. It's such a great place that people watch. There's such a wide variety. There's times where I want to go to airports. I wish there was a large airport closer to here. And I swear I would just sit there all day and watch people. If anyone's going to the airport, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go with. I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive in the city, but I'll go. I'll keep you company. I'll drive to the airport with you, and you can take as long as you need at the airport. I'll be sitting right over there. Sketching people.
You're the guy that actively wants to go with their partner who is like, you know, oh, I need to get there early, like 4 hours. Sweet.
For reals though, for reals, I am always prompt to the airport because I have to factor in time to draw people.
I need that sketch time, yo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Security guard looks at your ticket. Your flight is only for 12 hours, sir. I know. Oh, I'm aware. I'm going to use all of that.
Yep. And it goes by.
What's with the easel? Don't worry about it.
It's cool, man. It's
all
cool.
Right. If you had to evacuate your house, what's the first possession you'd grab and rescue to safety? Assuming that, you know,
so this is
any living critter, you know,
people
can get on their own volition.
Yeah. Okay. At this point, probably my iPad, because that's what I draw on all the time. Like that's sort of my like. It would be like, I know I couldn't save all of my supplies or materials or even like, I don't care if I made something and it burns, right? Like it's once I make something, it's done. It's dead to me.
You might as well burn it.
Right. It kind of, right? Like just let it go. I've already let go of it. But my ability to make more things, well, that's different. So that's my thing. That's what I draw on all the time now. It would have been a close second. I've got a very specific pen that I like when I do ink drawings. It's like a Japanese brush pen that I've got. Like I use real specific ink, and I've got a little like refillable cartridge thing for that. Like it's just
that's rad.
It's always reliable, man. It always makes the line that I want it to make. So that's like a close second because that you can take anywhere. You know, you can draw on walls for all I care.
Cool. Yeah, it's so rad. How long have you been using that as your kind of easel?
Which?
The iPad.
That's a good question. It's probably been 4 years that I've really been using it consistently like that. Before that, it was all pens, like pen and ink stuff. With a little bit of digital, but it was all on a PC, so it was kind of restrictive. It's not the sort of thing you can just take anywhere. So it would be go out, draw some stuff on paper, and then scan it if I wanted to do it digitally, right? And then either do line work over it or color it digitally. It was just this big, like, it was this big production before. But yeah, the iPad has been 4 years. I love it. It's like the best thing ever, man. It's like having all your tools. I would carry around a backpack full of pens. Like you could hear me walking down the street from just all of the shit that's in this backpack. You know, pens and paper. Looks like I'm a Sherpa going up Everest, but no, it's just, it is just pens and paper.
Do you still ever draw with like pen, paper, brush kind of thing, or is it predominant? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, sometimes
before your but like, how much is it changed? Like, how much is it diminished from before you got your iPad to post?
I don't know. At least like once or twice a week, which is that's still like a 90%, 95% is on digital. It's on my iPad. It's maybe 5%. With a pen and paper, and usually then it's not even like a formal sketch pad, right? It's all right. I feel like making something. I got a bunch of blank comic covers, so sometimes I'll just draw on one of those.
Oh, cool.
Or like if I'm waiting in the car, in my car I've got piles of notepads and pens in my car.
Just in case I forgot my iPad or ran out of batteries.
Hey, I've got to have something within reach at all times. Yeah. Yeah, so like Post-it notes and pens. The ballpoint pens. I love a good shitty ballpoint pen. Well, yeah, it's got to be like a shitty ballpoint pen. It's got to be one that you stole from a hotel or that you got at the bank. There's something about pens that have had a little bit of use and wear in them. Yeah.
There's at least one nibble at the top.
Yeah, and they just exactly right. Somebody's tooth mark that ain't yours. Yeah, it's seen some things.
A war vet of a,
yeah, exactly, right.
Of a Ramada Inn pen.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, you can retire now, friend. You're coming home with me. Yeah, they lay down great, almost like a pencil. Anyway,
that's so cool. Yeah. What's the most random thing you've like sketched on? Like J.K. Rowling like wrote like half of like the first Harry Potter book on napkins at like a local tea shop or whatever like that. What's your napkin?
It's hard to put it in perspective, right? Because I'll draw on anything that is handy, and if I'm in a pinch, I mean, that's my real addiction, right? Is that I can't not. If I have to do it, I will utilize any surface that will hold ink available. So
you're the one guy in the psych ward they'd let have a pen because otherwise he's going to draw with his own feces.
Just a little stab in the finger and I got some ink right there. You know, like, I mean, not that it's ever gotten to that point.
It's going to be a mess if he doesn't have a pen. Let him have the pen.
So like the most desperate I've gotten, there was one, when I was just out of college, I was poor, like everybody. And I can't remember where I was, but I had like, $1 cash, didn't have anything on me. Mm-hmm. Felt the need to draw, had like hours to kill. So I just went and got coffee, and then I got one of those little wood stir sticks and smashed the end of it so it was like a brush, like chewed on it and kind of like bashed on it, and then just used the coffee on the outside of the paper cup, like the coffee cup.
Awesome.
To draw on with the coffee.
Awesome.
Right? So
that's so dope.
It fucking took forever. It was like watercoloring with the world's lightest, shittiest brown ink. But I got there, and I would turn it slowly, so I did this sort of panorama around the cup because that was all the space I had, and that was all I saw around me. At that time, I just drew what I saw. So yeah. Anyway, that was probably the most desperate.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite industry secret or term that's only used in your line of work?
Well, it's not really a good thing, but people throw around spec work a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's just, people will ask you to make something for them, like an illustration or a logo. It's always a logo, actually. Always a logo. Or or a portrait. So they want you to make them something. They're not going to pay you for it, but you'll get a lot of exposure. It's one of those things that if we make any money off this, then you'll get 0.5% of anything we make. It's that. Yeah. It's that I want you to do this thing for me. I want you to give me your heart and soul
for free.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of devalues the work. But it's very widespread. Very widespread.
Yeah, that idea of like we'll pay you if the exposure thing I feel like is something that came from the what is it? The kind of influencer, like boom, and I fucking hate it. That is like, and it's mostly probably because like,
I mean, it was there before,
rich, snobby.
It's bad.
To be fair, other people do use this, but like the way I've seen it, it's all been like screenshots online. So this is not fair. But the only way I've been exposed to that is rich white female influencers, maybe male influencers, but it looks like it's predominantly female. Like, I'm taking a selfie influencers. Yeah. They're like, yeah, give me this thing. I'll give you exposure. It's worth so much. I'm sure guys have done that too. I've only just seen pictures of like screenshots of like predominantly like female, like effectively like self-aggrandized models that just do that. It's just like, you just devalue society and you're making yourself more than you are. And just everything about it is disgusting to me. It's like, pay the fucking person that's doing the fucking thing. Like that, this idea of like, and my favorite is the responses from creators, is the responses from businesses who are like, we'll just have your money, thanks. We don't need this exposure that you believe is actually worth something. We're good.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. I think there was a chateau in like France or Switzerland or something like that where some influencer was trying to get like a stay at it. It was a nice, very expensive place, arguably too expensive, but it was very nice. And like, and this person's like, let me stay there for free. I'll give you, I'll give you exposure. Like, you do realize that we have more followers on Instagram than you do, right? Like, we don't need your help. That's not how this works. Exactly. And just kind of like, no. Yeah. Like, check yourself. It's like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice when they have the sort of pull to be able to make those sort of statements and are bold enough to then kind of put those people in a bit of check, right? Like, you're not
like I've seen it happen to artists too, where they're like, oh, the free exposure or like this and that. It's just like, yeah, like, or you could just pay me. I don't live on, like, exposure doesn't pay my rent. How about you give me some of this green that you're making? Like, that would help me a lot more. Like,
I think that there are far more people that are comfortable saying that now, way more than there used to be.
I think it's just because people realize how like exposure is worth something, but it's not everything. It's like that idea of, I think it's also kind of hopefully diminishing and changing with like the idea of free interns, of being like, like our gift to you, and it's also gift when we're like riding you harder than the last donkey in town. Like, our gift to you is this, this knowledge, this experience of being a gopher and getting us coffee, all day. Like, you've learned so much. Like, I haven't learned shit. I can say that I interned here. That's what I've learned. Like, and
exactly.
that,
you
guys
get the sort of clout of brand.
Yeah, it's like, or how about you guys just pay me and like, I'll do this for you. Like, I'm not a slave for your perspective. Oh, great douchebag. Like, that's not not what this is. Pay me some fucking money. I'm a human being. Treat me like I'm a human being, not like I'm some guy not deserving to be in your vicinity.
Yeah, it really sort of devalues somebody's worth real quick. Like their own personal self-worth, to be treated like that, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like, it's disheartening when you're the person, like, I'm sure there's a ton of people in there have been there, probably still are, where people are putting this thing out and it's some people, like, you do it because you enjoy doing it, right? So you make sort of the exception. Maybe you think, okay, well, I'll do this thing and I'll consider it a favor, right? It's still really shitty that at some point, like, you come to the realization that somebody is asking you to give this thing for free that maybe you do on your own, but they're definitely exploiting you. You're definitely being taken advantage of.
Yeah, for sure.
And only to leverage their own position, right? Like, at no point do they really return as much as they're receiving. Like, there's not that reciprocity. That's another word that I don't feel like is used enough. Reciprocity.
Reciprocity?
Yeah.
Reciprocity is great.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway.
No, totally. Yeah. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the only things you should be doing for free, hot take, is the things you do for yourself. Like, I do this podcast basically for free. We have currently one Patreon patron. God love her. Thank you so much. And it helps me not be like negative money for making this podcast, because this podcast does cost money.
Yeah,
believe it or not, putting it on all these things, having equipment. Yeah, it costs money. That being said, even if nobody was helping fund this project, which I do appreciate and would love more people to do so, because it is not time consuming and is not cheap.
Yeah,
I would be doing this for free. Yeah. And as long as it doesn't ever become like a huge hassle to do this in any shape or form, I will continue this because I love it. And like, you'll continue to do art for yourself, regardless of if any dollar ever comes in, it sounds like. Yeah. Because that is just what you do. That is who you are.
Yeah.
But somebody shouldn't get to profit off that and take advantage of you because of what you love. Yeah. And give you nothing in return. That's pretty fucked.
Yeah. Oh, so that's like an industry secret, right? That we're all really doing this because we just enjoy doing it. We're going to do it regardless. But that doesn't mean it doesn't carry worth, and we shouldn't be financially compensated a little bit for it, right? Like,
if somebody else is going to gain, so should you. Like you shouldn't be.
Well, and not just that. Like, I mean, I really think that is a culture. I mean, and I'm not just saying this because, like, it would be nice for people to just give me money, but I really think that it is a culture we should foster people that are making or creating or just enriching us culturally. Like those are the people that sort of absorb and then masticate and then kick back out this interpretation of life, right? And not just life, but life now. We should be encouraging that sort of thing because that it expands us. It helps our mind see past these sort of indoctrined ideas, right? But no one's going to do that if they can't make money off of it. I mean, they are going to do it. We're going to do it regardless, but we're going to get bitter and maybe stop or maybe not take it all the places that we could have taken it without a little bit of help, right?
A little bit of help, a little confirmation.
Yeah.
Also, I think, like, if you buy something, if it costs you something to obtain something, its value goes up inherently to you. Generally speaking, obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but if I give you something for free, or you pay a little bit for something, or you do something, like even if you hug me, get a high five, the high five now has more value because you did a thing to obtain it.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to just walking up and getting a high five. It's like, well, you got to give me a hug first. Okay, hug, give me a high five. And it's like, that high five has more value. And so by doing even like the smallest of actions, even if it costs only $1, it gives it more value than getting it for free, and you appreciate the thing more.
Yeah.
So if you pay for a piece of art as opposed to we're just given it, it means more to you. Especially if, like, and this is one of the weird ones, is having a friendship that gives you something. Like if I'm friends with you and you give me a piece of art, that means more than if I don't know you and you give me a piece of art, because there is like a transactional currency of our friendship equates to this in a sort of fashion.
Oh, for sure. So, like money is not the only currency that we exchange, like hands down. Like there's so much other that is, and I mean, I guess that's also part of it, right? Like we really should be giving these people support. And when I mean not just financial, but just like in giving, right? In sort of trying to provide support to raise everybody up, right? Yeah. And
by spending money, you are yourself gaining something greater than if you didn't. If this thing costs $1, I'm not necessarily getting it back in full stock, but the transaction rate is going up, because if you give me something for free, you're gaining a little bit of like, here's my art. But you're not getting anything back. And I'm getting this thing that is free, which devalues it a little bit. Whereas if I'm giving you my friendship, if I'm giving you a little bit of money, if I'm giving you, a ride somewhere, if I'm giving you my attention, it doesn't matter what it is, I'm giving you something and then you are giving me this. We both have gained something and given something, and collectively we are boosted.
Yes.
Not in any way a psychologist or something like that. I don't know if that tracks, but that's just the way I feel, man.
Yeah, right? That's just what my gut tells me.
That's just the way it feels.
Yeah, no, for real. I'm 100% behind that. I really like that idea of everybody in raising each other up in whatever currency we each have.
In economics, I believe, from the one economics class I barely passed, this is called a mutually beneficial exchange, where both parties are made better by the exchange of goods and or services. Moving on from the economical to the day-to-day, is there a piece of advice you've been told over the years that has made the biggest difference to you, or that you find yourself even pondering to this day?
Best piece of advice? Just like keep doing that. Like don't stop. Like you just
what venue was this person telling you this in?
Multiple venues. It applies in lots of places. No, I just think like the lesson of persistence. Like I don't know that it's even from a specific person, but I know that every time I heard it, I needed to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that. It's even that sort of support, even at that level of just sort of the concept of like, no, just, you know, like you're doing you, and there's nothing wrong with doing you. Just keep doing you. So.
I think like one of the great things about that, and it's a message I've heard a million times. It is like the hardest thing, but it's also the easiest. Like in that it is just so, you know, it's like it's effectively like Nike's, you know, logo. It's just do it. Like the most important thing. I remember hearing this on one of my favorite and another inspirational like kind of way this podcast came into being was. I hope you and the listeners at home are familiar with this. It's called Hot Ones. I would highly recommend checking it out.
So good.
It's an interview show with the weirdest twist of eating progressively hotter and hotter spicy chicken wings, and putting the interviewee under like a bit of a crucible, because like the hotter it gets, the harder it is to think, and so the more likely you are to like answer with a truer answer and also be funny because you're it's so hot. But it's the guy from Stranger Things that plays Hopper, and it was like, I think it was like, what is like one word of advice was to other aspiring actors, and it was tenacity. Because it's like, to do anything in this field, you have to basically just want it so bad to never give up.
Right, because you can't do anything else, right? Because,
yeah, basically you have to have this. It has to mean that much to you, otherwise you are extraordinarily unlikely to succeed.
Yeah,
and like that's not only true for acting, but any kind of non-business conscripted field.
For sure.
You know, where it's like, because there is some validation, but a lot of it is your own personal validation. It is about the journey. It is about, you know, your experience. It is about what you bring to it. And so if you don't have the tenacity to just do it kind of for you or for the love of the game, you're just going to fall out of it. And like, you know, same thing with this. If I didn't love podcasting, this would suck. The amount of time, like I remember looking the first like dozen episodes early on, the amount of view counts every time was on one hand.
You can't look.
It was nothing. Yeah, well, you can't look at that stuff and hope that, like, in hopes that for validation, because that's I mean. Not where it comes from.
For sure.
You know, it's so interesting. You have to make it for the love of the game, and you have to have that be an ancillary product, not an important product, in that, like, that doesn't matter. One of the things I was going to reference earlier, and I don't remember why, and it sort of fits here, so I'm going to shoehorn it in.
Yeah.
There's just a game called Among Us. So it was released in 2018. It didn't get popular until like 2020.
I was gonna say recently. I remember seeing it like being more in the like lexicon of.
Yeah. For the longest time, nobody played it. It came out, a couple people played it. It had like a following of like maybe 1,000 players globally or something like that. It was really, really small, and like the people liked it. But eventually, after a couple of years, some streamer came across it randomly, played it, and it just blew up. It blew up to the point where it crashed the servers, I think at least once, if not twice, because of the amount of player integration that they just weren't ready for.
Just all of a sudden, yeah.
Their framework just like didn't have the ability to handle that. And so if you like look at something in the short term, and like this is kind of different because the game just got released and then it's effectively left out there. They didn't like, granted, if they didn't update
put it on the raft, send it out into the world.
Yeah, just
see you later.
Yeah. But like if you don't kind of hold out for that, 2 years, that however many years, and it's impossible, I think, or at least not mentally good, to try and hold out for that expecting just that. Like that's like the other kind of half of this, is that you can't hold out for a financial expectation. You have to do this because you love it, and then if something comes along, great, and if something doesn't, you still love this, and that's why you kept going. And like that's like I used to think for the longest time, like, what if I keep doing X, whether it be screenwriting, whether it be like making podcasts, what if I keep doing X and I don't make it? What do I do then? That was like a fear of mine for the longest time.
No, but it's a big big deal, because I mean it's sort of validating what you do, and it's validating in a way like it's, I don't know, the way that you were taught to some degree, right? Like that. Yeah. When you say making it, like, you don't just mean like, if I keep doing what I'm doing, you're going to do that one way or the other. the sort of making it, and the validation is being able to sort of be financially secure or to attain some degree of clout.
But that idea is wrong.
Yes.
Because, or at least I consider it to be heavily flawed, because this idea of making it being like it means that you head out and you're seeking X, where X is making it, in whatever terms you define, and anything before then is not acceptable. And so if I don't do something that's, if I don't reach this acceptable, kind of benchmark, then I won't have done anything, and it will all be for naught. It's like such a bad way, looking back, I think, of looking at it, because it's about as stupid and cliche as it is, it's about the journey is the thing that matters. The destination is irrelevant, because the destination is not guaranteed. The only thing that is going to happen is you're going to start walking in X direction. You don't know where you're going to end up. A lot of people, I think the stat is currently most Americans change their occupation, not where they work, but what they do 6 times in their life. So the likelihood you set out to be a lawyer and you end up owning a pancake house is a very much more like almost real reality than like continuing to be a lawyer forever. I'm sure that's probably not a super good argument, because I think most lawyers stay in the job if they go into it. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, but you know what, though? It's out of... I'd be curious to see how many people, like, I just walk out of high school, they teach you go to a 4-year, you get your degree, whatever, get your master's, maybe get a doctorate, right? Like, if you're on that path, I'm curious how many of those people when they're 40 still feel like that's their path, right? Or if it's just like, well, this is the trodden path, and I'm invested into this direction.
They feel trapped by the kind of social construct that is like, you went to school to be a lawyer, that's what you do.
Yeah, and they identify so much of what they do with who they are, or that they just are scared to take it in another direction, right? If I spent 20 years building a foundation to get somewhere, and then realize I want to do something else, and then I look over and there is zero foundation, and know that it takes 20 years to get something comparable to where I'm at, well, that's scary as fuck, right? It's it's intimidating to make that transition.
Totally.
I would be really curious to talk to people and say, like, are you still satisfied with where you are now? If you could make a jump and just be there, like if you can be in a comparable position somewhere else, would you? Yeah. Just out of curiosity,
Totally. Yeah. But it, like, circling back, I want to finish.
Sorry.
No, it was a little. Is this like idea of you're going, this idea of like making it is just like it's so forlorn, like that is not. There is no end run. You don't know what the end run is, and like. I think for me at least, this idea of well, you have to make it, and if you don't, you're a failure. It's like. No, you tried to do this thing. Maybe you changed your mind. Maybe you learned that this wasn't for you. Maybe doing it, like there's people. I used to think there was this guy. I used to live in Humboldt County, and my roommate went and got his car, like the oil change or like a tire switch or something like that. And he was just sitting around, ended up talking to one of the mechanics, had a PhD in math, and was writing math theory at home. He's like, wow, why don't you publish this? Why don't you do this with that? He's like, oh, it's just for me. And like that was his, that's where he wanted to go with it. Yeah. And he kind of, got into his mountaintop, and he enjoyed being there, and that was like completely fine. So like the idea of making it is like so financially driven because of the way this country sees success equals money. It's like, that's not, I mean, it's nice. Making more money like is helpful and benefits
any money is nice.
It's
sometimes.
Not something I would necessarily turn away. But that's not always what it is for everybody. And like to judge somebody because we're always putting ourselves up to like Uncle Sam's like kind of ledger and his scrutiny to whether like we've done okay. Like I have a friend who's been on this podcast, Lucas. Came on and talked about music, and the other day I saw him, love you Lucas, and we talked, and I was like, how's the rock star life? He goes, oh, I'm not a rock star. I'm like, you play rock music, You've released music on Spotify. You've toured, and you're going to be touring somewhere in the near future. You know, God willing. Mm-hmm. You're a rock star. You're not as high a rock star as you dreamt, hoped, or, you know, esteemed to be.
Yeah.
That doesn't change what you are. You know, you're allowing the world to tell you what you are and aren't, and not choosing, you know, to do this. The idea of, like, I remember there's some interview with Bo Burnham is talking to this kid, and this kid's like, how do I get to do what you're doing? He's like, you're doing it already.
Yeah, right.
Like, I mean, you don't want, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, he wanted to go further, but, like, he was, I think it was kind of like a two kind of autocorrection trying to balance out this kid to the middle. The kid is, like, hopefully enjoying what he's doing, but he's, like, wanting to, like, he's, like, looking to the stars as if he's not alreally, you know, climbing, like, already on the moon.
Right.
And Bo Burnham's, like
there's some kind of secret, right? Like, there's something that...
Well, not only secret, but like, that what he does doesn't matter. And I think that's, like, I'm hoping and presuming that was the fear that Bo had for him, and, like, why he's, like, correcting him. Like, no. Like, I think he understood what he asked, but wanted to, like, help sort of teach him a lesson simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you know, you have to look at what you do and appreciate what you do, not necessarily the situation you're in, but, you know, if you look at, like, your activity and you think it's not, there's a difference between thinking it can get better and thinking it's not good enough, right? Mm-hmm. Like, looking for improvement is fine, but looking as if it's faulted, I think, is, like, incorrect. It's like,
it's sort of the, like, invalidating growth, right? Or just not, like, considering growth as a valuable outcome.
Or, and I don't want to use this, I use this word because there's a lack of one for me to come up with, is this idea of failure being negative. It's just like, the idea of failure, just, and the word sucks. So, like, you know,
there's a lot of connotation with it, but I mean, the reality is people, it's failure of what your expectation of the goal is, I guess.
Yeah. And so that idea of, like, oh, I failed, I'm a failure. It's like, no, you failed. How can you improve? Like, there's this great TED Talk called, I don't remember the name of it, but it basically was talking about failing faster. And it's this idea that is used, I think it's in programming, and they basically just want to get the program to fail faster, because the amount of time that it goes and doesn't fail in the initial seconds, like, if it takes an hour for it to fail and you figure out why, it's still, like, you know, you're still learning, but you're learning at a slower rate. If you can make your program fail in 5 seconds and 5 minutes, the amount of more time you have to work with of being, okay, what was that problem? How do we address that and make this product better? Because that's all we're effectively doing as human beings, is we're trying to make our product, whether it be ourselves, whether it be our art, whether it be, you know, our interpersonal relationships, we're trying to make them better. And so the faster that fails, the quicker you are able to, like, go back, look at the problem, and see what's wrong with it. So if you always trip, it's, like, better to trip at the beginning of a race than it is towards the end. Because if you trip at the beginning of the race, you can, you know, see what's wrong faster and try to fix it. If you trip at the end, it's like, this is not a good analogy, but whatever.
No, but I get it, right? Like, it's you're just gonna make all your course corrections early on. Yeah, exactly. Then it just becomes like making sure that you're working towards the right goal, right? Not the goal that you're fed, not the yardstick of somebody that says I've got to be this to consider myself successful, but, like, it just like, what are you refining?
Don't look at the yardstick.
Right? Or just, like, don't look at someone else's, right? And just be clear about what it is for you. Like, is someone, like, with your podcast, you're not doing it so that you, I mean, it would be nice if, right? There's it would be nice if yardstick, but there's the reality of, you're going to do this regardless if anybody listens to it or not. I mean, that's just how it is, because of your personal satisfaction. And for long-term goals, it could be like, all right, I'm going to, like, get enough clout to be able to interview this person. And that's your level of success. Like, I get to hear, or if I can just do this and financially make enough to maintain it and break even, that still feels good and is validating, because I get to continue to do the thing that I love to do. That's where you're setting your mark. Yeah.
But, like, also, I mean, like, as much as some of those are, like, good things to have, it's like they don't I'm still, I think this is also like one of the ones I see, like when talking to Lucas about like, I'm not a rock star. It's like, well, yes, you are. Like at certain points I said early on when I was making this podcast is like, well, I'm trying to make a podcast. I'm doing that. It's like, no, I'm a podcaster. I make a podcast. Yeah. Ergo, I am a podcaster. That's what, Lucas plays rock and roll music in a band, his own self thing. He publishes it. He goes on tour. That's a rock star.
Yeah.
Right? Are you at the level you'd like to be? No, I'm not nearly. I would love to be in 100,000 years. I would love for this to be my only job. That would be so cool. Mm-hmm. I'm one, regardless of whether I do or don't do that. I am a podcaster.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing this, and those are the most important things to me. Because without that, I'm never going to get to the other end, and I'm probably never going to get to the other end anyway.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is I'm okay with that. That reality is likely, probable, just like mathematically speaking. And that's fine. Is this going to stop me from doing this? Hell no. I don't care if I still only have one listener,
Yeah. Well, and there's just so much that's tied up between, what I'm hearing is that there's this sort of tangle between self-identity and success.
Yeah.
They're two different things,
Yeah, they are.
Like they really
But I think
are.
so many people, sadly, because of the way our society is currently working and stuff like that, it doesn't. I think there's too much of like a confusion between the two, and they very much should be separated.
For sure. Yeah, I think that people should get validation in doing what they do because they do what they do, right? Like,
yeah.
If you are a podcaster, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, like you should be able to own those things without any sort of stigma of what you do being tied to some other weight scale that assesses your value. Like
totally.
Really, your worth isn't what you do, and I think that whole worth thing is already being measured on this fucked up other scale that doesn't even need to be there.
True.
Yeah.
All right, bringing it back to the pod.
Yeah.
Given the opportunity, what is your favorite personal anecdote to tell?
I don't know that I have like a favorite anecdote. Like I've got lots of little stories here and there.
Those are all anecdotes.
Those are all anecdotes. I know they are, but I don't have a favorite. Like I feel like it's all very situational. Like I feel
what's the first one that comes to what's the first one that comes to mind?
The first one that comes to mind when you say that. Okay, well, because I was thinking about when I was a kid. I just put the mic. So we were having dinner one night, right? We're all sitting around the table, and my mom had made this stew, and she just kind of made this random stew. It had like chunks of beef and carrots, potatoes, like pretty basic, right? And broccoli. Mm-hmm. But every time she made it, she always put broccoli in, and broccoli's got those little like, I don't know, the little green broccoli bits, the little like things at the end of the florets. Mm-hmm. And they always kind of come off and they float at the top of the water. That's just what they do. It looks like pepper. So we're eating, and it's just me and my brothers and my mom, and my little brother's just sitting at the other end of the table, and he's just not eating. He's just looking sad, and he's a picky eater. So we just write it off to him being a picky eater. And then eventually my mom asks, "Why aren't you eating?" And he goes, "Oh, well, there's bugs in the soup, and I don't want to eat them." And then I laugh. My brother laughs. Ha ha! There's no bugs. It's just the broccoli, kid. Like, just eat it.
Yeah.
So, I'm eating, and then I look down, and I'm like, well, that does look kind of weird. I get a closer look, and like all those little broccoli bits have wings and legs.
Oh!
Yeah. So, I'm like, oh, okay, there's bugs in this soup. So then I feel like I have to say something like, oh, my little brother's right, which kind of stings because he's my little brother. And admitting he's right to anything at the time was against the rules. Yeah, exactly.
Against the rules?
So I say something, but I make it I'm like, I'm going to just play it off like it's no big deal. Hey, there's bugs in this soup. Rick's right. Take a bite. And so that's...
You still took a bite?
I finished my bowl. I didn't just take a bite. I ate the rest of the freaking bowl.
Oh my God.
Just to be like, it's no big deal. I don't know why that's the story that came out right now, but that's just the story.
You couldn't admit you were wrong, or like you could admit you were wrong, but you couldn't stop eating. Yeah,
it's not that I could admit that we were wrong. I gladly admit that I were wrong, but I will stand by the fact that I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I have to win in some aspect of this.
Exactly, right? Exactly. He can't get it. He can't get the whole thing.
Yeah, you can't get everything. That's so great. I'm an older brother. I've interviewed my younger brother Eli on this podcast. 100%. I don't know if I would have gone to that length. So game respects game, but I will totally understand the idea behind that. Of like, I mean, you're right, but I'm not going to give you that.
Yeah,
like, you can't get it for free. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that in a while. That was a good one.
Yeah. What's your favorite little known fact?
Favorite little known fact? I don't know if I'm even pronouncing it right. Oh, wait. No. I got a better one. That a group of owls is called a parliament.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites. I like that groups of things have names. In particular,
Murder
a group
of crows,
of
crash of rhinos.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Parliament of owls, root of wolves.
It's just so damn classy, though. Like
Oh yeah, no. Parliament of owls is classy.
Yeah,
I do love the way they. There's a poster growing up that was in our bathroom that was just top to bottom the groupings of animals, and
that is the most badass poster I've ever heard about.
So great. It had that awesome collision of information and kind of art, because I do think like the naming of that is almost like an artistic endeavor, the naming of groups of animals and having them be like it gives it its own flavor, and like having it be so poignant, like a parliament of owls, that's right, that's like the correct grouping.
Whoever got just like figured that out nailed it.
Yeah. That's so great. Fill in the blank for me. This weekend was so great. I spent 13 hours
drawing stuff. Period.
Have you ever gotten to spend 13 hours straight, just like do the whole entire day? Do you ever
Yes. I mean, I that's what I do most of the day now. I mean, now I've had to sort of build myself a structure so that I don't get too lost in it. So like I like legit have to set myself timers of like from this time to this time in the morning I'm going to like do illustration. From this time to this time in the afternoon I'm going to like do sculpture work or print stuff out or paint models, like that kind of thing. Or try to do some sort of business aspect of art, whether that's self-promote or whatever. But yes, I can very easily get lost in 13 hours of drawing. Easily.
So the problem for you isn't doing it. The problem is doing the amounts of it that you want, if I'm hearing you correctly. It's like if you didn't structure it, you would end up just falling down a rabbit hole of either drawing, sculpting, something like that, like one of the artistic endeavors for 13 hours by accident.
Oh yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, well, it isn't, right? Like True. Before I started structuring my days, I would start in the morning, and I often you get into this flow, right? When you're at least for me, I get into this flow, and time doesn't exist anymore. Like I just am doing my thing. I'm like figuring out this puzzle. I'm manipulating whatever I'm doing. Right? It's all just sort of pouring out, and I'm bending it, tweaking it, refining it. It's just all kind of coming out, and there's no time. Time doesn't pass until all of a sudden, my lady gets home, or my alarm to go pick up the kid goes off, and it's like, shit. It's now 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. I haven't eaten most of the day, like because that is all I will do. I will legit get 100%. Flow focused in it, and will forget to eat, and I'll be like, shit, I'm like, why am I'll stand up and I'll be lightheaded because I didn't eat or drink all day. So I've got to regulate it because of that. Like, because I'll just get lost.
That's so cool. I know it's interesting. So I understand why that's a burden, but also at the same time, there are very few things. As much as I love podcasting, I love doing plenty of other things. That's one of those things. I don't think I've ever. It's really been a long time since I've gotten caught up in an activity that I forgot to eat. Part of that is probably because I just like eating is like a comfort thing for me, not only like a sustaining thing. But you're on a very small list of people that I know that of that kind of passion wavelength, and it's so beautiful to me to see somebody be that passionate about any one thing that they can. It is almost like dangerous. It is. I don't know. There is a kind of,
for real. There's like but it's only dangerous in that like I become so detached from everything else. Like it just in it. Like I legit mean that like time seems to disappear. Like I couldn't tell you how long I worked on something. It could feel like 10 minutes and be hours. Yeah. It's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
But it's just something I have to be mindful of.
It's so pure to me, like that. Like this is where part of the imposter syndrome comes in. Is I look at that and I go, well, I'm not a true artist.
Oh, and that's bullshit.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think to each, like everybody's different, but it is like I do find it so mesmerizing, that idea of just like I've had days like that. Like scattered throughout my life when doing an activity where it was just so consuming. I was like, wait, what time is it? What, I haven't eaten?
So I'm curious what those activities were.
It's usually magic.
Yeah.
It's almost usually magic. But that's, because there's a tournament structure. I'm kind of like in a groove in a moment. Yeah. But that's pretty rare. Even then I usually like kind of, because of just the way magic tournaments work, there's a kind of like in and out moments like between rounds and stuff like that. And so it's a little hard to stay kind of in the pocket for that long.
Right. But you still have to kind of surface. Yeah. Because it has a built-in structure, Yeah. That's cool. Have you ever played Magic and just like let it ride? Like, you ever had a non-tournament structure flow state when it comes to Magic? Or you allowed yourself that, or even been? I don't even know what that would look like.
I think so. Like when playing with friends, I've gone, like if you're playing with a really good friend where you have like good conversation, the play patterns are like engaging, and you're like at a kind of like high mental level of like testing. I've probably done that with a handful of people in my life, but I am so socially like socially drawn that for me,
it's harder to get lost because you're engaging with this other person. Like to really detach.
It's different.
Yeah,
I guess.
No, I get it.
But it's a different kind of like organism. But I can have conversations and hang out with people where it feels like that. It's like I think there's times after work where I've talked with a coworker, or I've talked with a friend or a family member, and then I look down at like the counter on my phone. It's like, oh, this conversation's over 2 hours.
That's the best though. It's the best because you're just like,
yeah. But I mean, like 13 hours doing one activity and like losing track of time. I had a roommate who was studying to be engineer, and she would come out of her room sometimes and be like, I need to go get something to eat. I haven't eaten all day. It's like, it's 9 at night. I guarantee you've eaten at some point. And she's like, bet? And it's like, oh, really? It's like, yeah, I've just been in there like doing homework and like studying for this thing, and I've just like gotten lost in the academic of it. It's like, holy crap. Like that's awesome and terrifying. I don't know. It's its own kind of gorgeous insanity, I guess. I don't know. It's like, so freaking rad.
There's something like cool about it. I'll give you that.
Well, I think part of it is that also I don't experience it because I understand when you say like, like I can see the problem in that, especially like you made it, like you painted that portrait very illustriously. It makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, it's like that kind of like other experience, right? It's when like somebody from a foreign country talks about something that you find cool that they find that like kind of sucks. It's just it's just like it's such this like you have no. Like
sure, there's like a magic to it, right? When it's this thing that's sort of foreign or outside of how you experience things. Yeah.
You're like, wow, that's amazing. Like, it's not that good. You're like, dude, that's pretty cool. And they're like, no, no, it is not. Like, you haven't lived that. You don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so, like you said, foreign. It's like you can't.
Yeah,
it's so beyond your scope of like truly understanding.
Yeah. No, for me, there is a cool part to it, right? But when I'm done and I can look back at this thing that's there. But it's also, it is kind of scary to like be able to like come up out, like it really is like surfacing, right? It's like
it's a time travel.
It is. And you kind of cast this thing off and then everything catches up though. So like the fact that you didn't eat or drink all day hits you pretty hard. The fact that I was staring at a screen, or like if I'm outside sketching with paper and pen, I would look up, and because you're staring at this pretty stark white paper against pen, like the colors are different when you look up. You're like looking up at a different world because your eyes are kind of like burned from the white of the paper.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a trip.
Can you think of the first or most impactful memory of when you realized you weren't so alone in your struggle, or were more like everybody else than you'd previously realized?
Whoa, go over that again. That was a meaty question.
It is a meaty question. Yeah. Probably should just tune it to like one or the other instead of both.
But no, I mean,
go back.
Yeah.
Can you think of the first or most impactful memory of when you realized you weren't so alone in your struggle as a human, or where you were more like everybody else than you'd previously realized?
I don't know if I don't know if this applies, but this is what came to mind. When I was a kid, I found a bird that had fallen out of a tree. And it was just this baby bird. And so I, like tried to scoop it up and put it in a safe little spot, and would like feed it with a little dropper. And it died. It maybe lasted a day or two. And it's just one of those things that I felt really was impactful, right? I feel like everyone has an equivalent baby bird story, and I could be wrong, but I remember the first time I had talked to a friend about it, and I don't even remember how it had come up, and she was like, oh yeah, like that happens to everybody. Everyone has found a bird that's fallen out of a tree and tried to nurse it back to health. I'm like, is that really that universal? Well, I guess so. I mean, maybe not. I see, to this day, I still find it hard to believe that it's a universal thing, but maybe the concept of finding something broken and trying to fix it and not being able to is the universal piece, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that was the story that came to mind, and it just made me feel like fuck, this is this very unique situation, but there's something in that. There was something learned in there that speaks to a more universal experience. So that would be it.
So kind of dovetails in this next one. Is there a moment that you look back on in your life that fills your chest with pride or brings a tear of joy to your eye?
So I don't know if I told you, getting married.
Hey.
Yeah. So honestly, thinking about that, like thinking, that I'm the person that someone wants to marry because I've got my own shit. But that I connect to somebody in that way, that I found somebody that I can relate to at this like just insane level of realness. Yeah.
That's so cool. So happy for you, man.
Thanks.
When's the date?
It is July 21st. We're going to get married in Hawaii. We're just kind of doing a super, super small thing. Yeah.
Well, it is a super, super small island, so.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be great.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm sure your SO is very glad to hear that it's bringing a tear of joy to your eye.
It's exciting, man. Like, it's cool to find someone like that, and like, it's just for a long time in relationships, I felt it's my personality type to try to take care of people or to please people. That's just sort of built into my hardwiring, right? And in that, I've lost pieces of myself. Like I spend so much time taking care of other people that it was hard to identify my own personal wants.
Yeah.
So it's nice, and not just nice. Nice is like such a small term for what it is. It feels it's just a different experience to be able to be present with my own personal self and wants and still be in a relationship with somebody, like to be independent. Yeah, I'm having a hard time explaining it, but
I mean, that's the best part about like love and finding what you want, right? Is that it's so magnificent, so big, and yet so impossible to explain in its grandeur, right? It just is.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so many little pieces and so much nuance to it that it's hard to define, and yet it's super defined in what it is.
Yeah. It's like trying to describe the Sistine Chapel and like have it and like getting across the weight and magnitude of its brilliance. It's like, good luck.
You can try. It's not going to be the same.
Just sum up the Mona Lisa for me.
Yeah,
this is like
Cliff Notes for it.
Like it's like the Cliff Notes of getting married. I found somebody, like we like each other. We're gonna spend the rest of the time together. It's like that is and isn't what getting married is.
Yeah,
it's like you're not wrong, but there's a lot more to it than that. If you described it like that and why that mattered to and then it'd be like, this also matters a lot to me. It's like, does it though? I mean, that was just a sentence. That doesn't sound like that amazing. It's like, trust me, it is. Like, okay. Right. Sometimes you gotta
really pull this apart, but
sometimes you gotta read the book to really get its meaning.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, lastly, before we throw it to commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
Just Politics by Terminology. Yeah, I don't know why it's been. It's really been recent. It's not like my favorite ever go-to song, but for whatever reason, recently it's been something I can listen to that takes me from. It helps me gather momentum. Sweet. Like I hear it, and I hear that beat, and I'm just like, okay, that'll get me going. That's my audio cup of coffee.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have stuff like that to kind of get you out of inert.
All right, and with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy the totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Just Politics by Terminology. Or if you really want to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Song Rex. Long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our life-enhancing product, Addiction. Welcome back, everybody. So, here with Albert. Albert, what is your passion that you've brought with you today?
Making stuff.
Could you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, I do digital illustrations. Really any sort of illustrations, but recently predominantly digital illustration. And then I'll take those illustrations and then typically turn them into 3D models, which I will print out on a 3D printer and then paint. That's my thing right now.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's just something that passes the time and that I get a lot of enjoyment from. And it's just kind of cool taking this thing like an idea or a concept that usually just sort of falls out of the sky and then shaping it into something that is recognizable as a thing. You know, like a problem I had with my art when I was young is I would draw this thing and it's like, it's not my pet peeve, but it is my pet peeve question that people ask is like, oh, what is that? Like, if you can't tell what it is, even though it's maybe something you've never seen, even though it's like a cat with like 5 horns and 3 eyes, like, I don't know. When people ask me that, it always makes me super self-conscious of my art. Anyway, so to
I think I totally understand that, but I wonder if it's because we always want a name for something. You know, we always want it to be like an Octocat or something like that, and not just be like, you know, this thing I came up with.
Yeah.
I don't know, this is Ted. You know, like freaking whatever, you know.
I should do that.
Give it
like, honestly, I should have
name.
learned that years ago. So just give it a name. Just be like, yeah, that's Steve.
Oh, it's Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know Bill? How do you not know Bill? Bill's awesome.
He's great.
It's like kind of like lean into it, just like kind of give them a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah. But yeah, so like making something readable and then to like take that and that's a puzzle in and of itself, right? I like puzzles. And then to put that into how does this 2D object, how does that translate into what's in 3 dimensions? And it's like something that doesn't exist, right? So like sort of coming up with that is sort of this fun puzzle in and of itself. And then 3D printing is its own hobby, and painting miniatures is its own hobby. But at the end of the day, I get these cool little models of these things that fell out of my brain, and it's awesome. Yeah,
that's really cool. So I'm going to ask a couple of whens. When did you first remember starting to draw?
Oh, I was young.
And when did you first get the idea and start like 3D printing? I guess when did you start to draw? When did you draw when did you start painting miniatures, and when did you start making your own miniatures to paint?
Okay. So I started drawing when I was really young. Like as soon as before I was in school of any kind. I used to sit.
He fell out
with a pen
with a paintbrush.
Yeah. I have real distinct memories of sitting with my grandfather. My grandfather had a winery, and he, for his wine label, it was something that he had drawn, and he would he couldn't afford like color labels, so he would print out all the same label, and then with a colored pencil would color the Chardonnay, the grapes on the bottle, on the label with a little, yellow colored pencil, and with a purple one on the Zinfandel. So
paint by numbers, the winery edition.
Yeah, no, for real. And so I would help him. And so I would help him fill in these things, right? And then he would teach me how to draw something after each time. So like, it would be, I remember he teaching me how to draw perspective, how to draw a 3-dimensional box, and how to draw a cartoon rabbit, like Bugs Bunny kind of.
Yeah.
Those are the earliest memories I have of drawing. And I could have been maybe like 4, 5. Had to be before I was 5 because I was in school. So yeah, probably like 3 or 4. Yeah, so pretty young.
All right. So when did we start painting miniatures? I'm gonna hazard a guess and say it wasn't until you were double digits.
Oh yeah, for sure. I started painting minis way later. A little when I was in high school, but not a whole lot much. Mostly recently, and when I say recently, within the last like 6 years. Yeah, it's fun. I like the idea of a 3-dimensional canvas. It just acts way differently, and the rules are way different. And yet they're still sort of the same, because lighting hits a 2-dimensional plane, in kind of one way. So any sort of shading or highlights you do are all a construct of colors and saturation and brightness, darkness. It's all sort of like tonal, right? Versus in a 3-dimensional object, the light's going to hit the top of it different than it hits things with overhangs, and you can apply some of the same technique, but it's just a way different ballgame, and it's just fun. It's just fun to try to figure out.
That's really cool. So from 6 years ago, you started, working on just miniatures, not that you had created. When did you first get interested and like start trying to make miniatures of things that you had created in a 2D space into a 3D space so that you could illustrate them further?
Probably as I started, like I didn't really start playing a lot of D&D until like 4 years ago. And it was always like trying to find a model that didn't exist. It's always like, oh, I want to play a dragonborn monk for some reason. And like, you're never going to find a dragonborn monk mini made anywhere. I mean, maybe now they've gotten better about making more like class race options for D&D. But yeah, you just couldn't find everything. And I don't like that answer. So I was like, all right, well, how can I make my own? I guess I could do little modeling things. And at the time, like 3D printing had always really fascinated me. It felt like it's very not futuristic, but it felt futuristic where I'm like, oh, it's like, this is like straight Star Trek level. I tell it, I want a thing. And then it kind of, sparkles occur and a thing comes out. Yeah. And I've always been fascinated with like sculpture, and it was just something that had never really been in my wheelhouse. So I said, screw it. I'll just make my own stuff. Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Like, it's cool that we live in a time where you can say, I want to do this thing, and you can find out how to do that thing in like 10 minutes. Now, you won't be good at it. You got to accept that out the gate. But you can find out how really easily. Like, that information is just out there. It's fantastic. And as somebody that really likes figuring stuff out and likes learning new things, for me, it's like I just need to be interested in it a little to get obsessed about it a lot.
Yeah. When I went to film school, I remember it was pretty early on. I think it was a professor, but it might have been like a further along student was like, going to classes is great, use the resources they tell you, but the most important thing is how to figure it out on your own. So just YouTube will be your best teacher.
Yeah, for
and
real.
Just like you can Google so much of how do I do this on YouTube. And that's not only for artistic endeavors and like filmmaking, that's just in general.
Everything,
like
man.
So there's so many how-tos on YouTube. Do not be afraid, listeners out there. If you want to learn something, don't let your dreams be dreams. Just realize it via like a how-to guide on YouTube or somewhere on the internet. There is somebody that can walk you through this. Don't just because you didn't go to school for it, can't find a teacher, don't want to go to school for it. Like, there's so many ways to like make that happen now.
Yeah, so many ways.
We do really live in like the best timeline. Yeah. As much as it doesn't feel like it, there's so much good to be gleaned.
And technology makes so much stuff accessible. I mean, not just the information, but like I don't know where I would have started like 3D sculpting. Like I know a lot of people use like ZBrush, but there's just so many like resources out there to do that. Like, I've got programs on my iPad, so I can go and like sculpt anywhere and do this stuff anywhere, aside from like needing to come home to print stuff out on the printer. But it's just cool to have that so open, to be able to create in so many ways and through so many different mediums, and have it just so accessible. Like, it's not like 20 years ago I would have had to put a lump of clay along with all my pens and paper in my backpack and haul that around if I wanted to make 3D objects or wooden friggin' knives. But like it's just cool. It's exciting to.
That's awesome.
That I think so many people can try. I mean, obviously there's it's not financially accessible to everybody, but there's always alternatives. There's always a coffee cup and a stir stick, right?
What's the biggest misconception about creating art, but especially creating 3D art, would you say, by the wider world?
Okay, so like value, I guess. People assume that because something is small, that it only has X amount of worth. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard. Like, I've had a few people say, "Oh, hey, like, that's cool. Can you make a little thing of me?" And like, I've made models of people before, usually performers, because I'm lucky enough that I know some local performers, and they'll like invite me and like Tom to go sketch at like the circus, at the local burlesque shows, at comedy nights. But so anyway, so I've made models of a few performers. If other people see me like, "Oh, I want one of those," I'm like, okay, well, you know, I did this one for funsies. To actually do this from scratch, like, I know it's only the size of your index finger, but it's going to cost you, like, if I'm giving you the bro deal, it's going to cost you $80. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for people to associate that with something that's smaller than their index finger, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it's all time. It's all time and skill. And like, it takes a while to print. It takes a resource to print. It takes a lot of time to paint, and to just like create a concept, right? Just to have an interpretation of a person. It's not. It just takes time. It takes time and skill and thought, and it has to. For me, at least, I know people that can just churn stuff out. I've got to stew it a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So there's this great anecdote regarding, I think it's Picasso, where he's in some cafe in France. He's just doodling. And he gets up to leave, and he's doodling on a napkin, he just throws it away when he leaves. And this lady, trying to be nice and somewhat understanding, comes up and goes, "Mr. Picasso, can I buy this from you?" Instead of like, you know, just going to waste. And he goes, "Sure, $20,000. She goes, "No, you're just going to throw it away. Like, it, you know, it's just a doodle. It just took you like, 10 minutes. But your time can't be that much." He goes, "Lady, that took me 30 years.
Yeah, for real.
I've been building up my skills and honing them over these years. You're only seeing me make it in 10 minutes, but it's all these years leading up to that is that product."
Yeah.
And for you, it's, you've been drawing your whole entire life. You've been, working on minis for 6 years. You've been doing all this. All of this leads up to that. And like they're seeing is the size of. They're not even seeing the time that's going into it either.
Yeah.
It's like kind of, lesser. Yeah. But like they're looking at the size and assuming price. It's like, would you think a diamond is worth less just because it's only
right? Because it's so little. For real, that's like a great analogy. Like, you would never question somebody for the value of a diamond, which is tiny, but when you quantify lots of other things, it really is size based. Just people have this inclination for that. So anyway, that's one of those things that kind of.
Totally. Yeah. What would you say is on the kind of flip side of this coin, what would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect of creating art?
Sharing it with people. Like, I think there's a moment when, like, I make stuff just, again, because I can't not. But to show somebody this thing that I made that maybe it's of them, right? And to see their reaction, that's like priceless. You can't buy that. Like, it's a really cool feeling, especially when they like it. I mean, sometimes they don't, but like when they like it, then it's really good. It's a really cool feeling, yeah. And it's obvious.
It's such a the endorphin rush, the validation. Yes. Even though in quotes you don't need it.
Still feels good.
Validation kicks ass. Like, I don't need it, but it doesn't suck either.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, I don't need cake, but holy shit, does cake taste good?
So good.
It's like, I mean, I might go, if somebody says, "Would you like a thing of cake?" I'm gonna be hard pressed to say no. But am I gonna go out and buy a cake? no, I'm not going to go out and buy a cake. I don't need it. But, if you're off.
You're right, but if it's in front of me.
Yeah, but if you're saying have some, why would I not?
Yeah.
All right, to go from the blissful and the passionate to the obnoxious and peeveful. Albert, what is your preposterous peeve?
People that back into parking spaces. I freaking hate it.
Why?
It just seems like the douchiest way to park.
But it's so easy to get out of the parking space later. You don't have to back up to So it's like inverting that. It's like eating. I feel like that is. I'm not a fan of it just because I'm lazy, and I'm just I've always learned to park with the front of my car and unpark with the back, if you will. Uh-huh. But it kind of feels like the goody two shoe version of eating your vegetables before your dessert, right? Because you're doing the hard thing before doing the easy thing. What is it that is douchey to you? So
I guess there's something about sure, it's easier to you can leave faster. Who the fuck has to leave that fast? What are you running from, bro?
Who are you? How are you so important? You're not.
That you gotta get out of here fast. And then if I'm behind somebody in a parking garage, and this guy in front of me is all right, I'm gonna back into this spot, because that's how they all talk.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. He has to pull ahead, and I'm behind him, so I'm pulling up. And wait, now I gotta stop. Now I gotta back up so you can back up into the space. Dude, this is supposed to be faster. This is not faster, man. This is inconvenient to everyone involved in this moment. This is harder than had you just chosen to back out in an hour from now when you're leaving. Come on, man. Every time I see someone backing into a spot from across a parking lot, I'm like, really, bro? No.
Do you need to exist?
Do you need to do that?
So the best part of this is, I don't know if you've ever had this happen. I've had it happen all of once. It's not super common because I feel like not that many people do this, and some of the people that do they're so about it that they've run into this occurrence, so they know how to kind of plan ahead. But is when they do that, they do the pull forward to back into it. Mm-hmm. You think they're passing up that spot, and then you go to turn in, and they back up, and then now they've gotten out of the car before you've moved by, and they're like, "Why'd you try to take my spot?" It's because I thought you left it.
Right, because you kept going. Once the front of you is past that spot, that means you passed it up, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm supposed to know that you're gonna. No, yeah. See, exactly that. And it would be your fault. You'd be getting harassed about it, as if you were trying to steal their spot, when really you're just I just thought you were done. I thought you were trying something else. I thought you were moving on. Nope. Somehow you're the villain.
Yeah, them putting the onus on you as if you're the bad guy is the biggest rub for sure.
Yeah.
When did you notice, or do you remember what brought on this peeve? Is there a moment that you can kind of harken back to, or the first time that it kind of occurred?
No, I don't know if there was an impetus for it. I think it's one of those things where just over time, it
just was.
Yeah, you notice, right? Because it's the every fifth car is parked the wrong way. Why'd you bother to do that, man? I get it if you're backing up to. I have no problem with people that want to back in so that they can maybe load something easier into a truck. That makes sense to me.
Sure.
That I'm oh yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah. You're making it harder to put groceries in the back of a truck if you back into it. You're making your job harder, and so it's just they're just over time. The more I thought about it, the more it stood out to me, and the more just you could feel that knife twist every time I see a car like that.
Do you have a story for us of when this peeve shined the brightest?
Huh. No, every time I'm in the car and in a parking lot.
No, but there wasn't one that led to a kerfuffle or kind of
No, I mean maybe the worst is I think probably there's been a few times where, because I like to drive with my windows down, and I'm sure I've been behind somebody and they tried to back into a spot, and I pulled up too close to them and had to back up, and probably very loud and audibly was
uttered.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? Come on. And then not realizing they had their window down until when they pull out, you get that look. That, like,
you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, right? There's part of me that's like, well, I didn't want you to hear that, but
that wasn't for you, that was for me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it gets me. It really does. It's like just thinking about it. It's like gets me riled up.
All right. Well, we're gonna simmer down a little bit and something about that while we go to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Albert is going to enter the lightning round. See you in a bit. Have you ran out of new stuff to do, rendering your life wholly unsatisfying? Do you have too much time on hand and have no idea what to do with it? Or are you just plain over this existence and wish for a plane with more intrigue? Might I introduce you to Addiction? Addiction deals with all these problems and more. Had to meet your significant other's parents and would rather not? Addiction. Had to go to work for the third day in a row? Addiction. Rent? Why not? Addiction. Addiction cannot be held responsible for your choice of choosing to imbibe in addiction. Any and all life-destroying fallout as a result of addiction cannot be legally pinned on addiction. But you're more than welcome to try. And we are back. Mm-hmm. Albert, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
Oh yeah. So ready.
Sweet. All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Albert, Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body, or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Danny DeVito and Shakira.
Is there a God?
Maybe.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Amazing thing.
Are hot dogs sandwiches?
Yeah.
Pineapple and pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple and pizza.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
Sure.
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Kanye, yay or nay?
Nay.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
No.
Which do you max out first? Intelligence, charisma, or strength?
Intelligence.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
That's a good one. Gilbert Gottfried.
Are Cheez-Its addicting?
Yeah.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Make the food.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Oh. That's a great one. Listen.
If you have to have only one for the rest of your life, which would you choose? Rice or pasta?
Rice.
Would you put your brain in a robot body if you could?
Yes.
Would you rather have flight or invisibility?
Flight.
Vests or opera gloves?
Vest.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
The children, they're definitely wrong.
Have you ever buried anything in a time capsule?
Yes.
Have a bird shit in your mouth every morning, but your breath is lovely, or you have perfect dental health, but your mouth always reeks?
The perfect dental health.
Rocking chair or recliner?
Recliner.
Pizza burger or cheeseburger pizza?
Wow, that blew my mind a little. I didn't even know that those things existed. Cheeseburger pizza.
Eat a hamster at prom or be on Campster.com?
Hamster at prom?
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
No.
Congratulations!
You've survived the lightning round.
But before you move on to your prize, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food? Oh, tostadas. It's like what I have every year for my birthday.
Yeah, 37 would be a lot of tostadas.
It wouldn't be... I mean, the more I think about it, I'm like, oh, I could do it. 37 is not that bad.
I mean, I guess it depends how big they are.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends on how high you pile them, right? Like,
Yeah,
Like,
also that. Yeah, if you're like doing like bare bones, it's like, yeah, it's not too bad. If you're like really getting like the cafeteria line value, those things are going to be stacked.
yeah.
That shit will kill you. All right. And since you've survived the lightning round, what lightning round question would you like to ask me in turn be asked of future guests?
Cake or pie?
Pie.
Yeah.
There's one cake that usurps that, but other than that, it's pie.
Yeah, as a whole, I find pie to be more diverse, but I find that cake people are like, I like cake. Like they don't like talk about pie. It doesn't exist to them. I don't know. It tells me a lot about
cake. There's one cake that actually usurps it, which is carrot cake. Other than carrot cake, all cake, most all cakes can fuck off. But but it goes like carrot cake, most pies, the rest of the cakes, and there's a couple pies that are just crap. They're at bottom, but yeah, by and large, I mean like lemon meringue, key lime pie, like oh baby.
Yeah, I was about to ask you what your favorite and least favorite pie is.
Favorite pies are like, probably like key lime, lemon meringue. Most anyone that has like a good viscosity to it, where it's not like, I'm not a big fan of apple. There's good apples, like Dutch Crunch is like pretty fun.
Yeah,
is that what it's called? Dutch Crunch apple? Is that right, or am I fucking that?
Dutch Crunch is the bread. Right?
Yeah, that's what I think. I'm like missing up.
There might be.
There is like, is it apple crunch? Is that what it is? There's a.
Are you talking about types of apple or types of pie?
There's a type of apple pie that is like apple crumble. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So like apple crumble is like way higher up there than apple for me. That, like
for sure.
That crunch does make a difference, but like for bad pies, I've had this once, and I think this is just a mistake. But this is like bottom tier pies is. Cherry pie with the pit still in was just what am I doing here?
Who does that?
I was quite offended. I got it at like a restaurant too. I didn't know that it had the pit still in. I was like, what the hell? I almost like chipped a tooth. I'm like, these pits are still in there. She goes, yeah, there's like, yeah, they're supposed to be. I'm like, what?
No.
Like, I will not be having this. And you can throw this out.
Dude, I'm telling you, no, nobody in their right mind leaves the pit in a cherry and a cherry pie. That's a foul. That's one of the biggest party fouls, man. I'm not a big fan of like cherries in general. Just like the texture is not like my jam. It's a little whack. Not your jam
for me personally. Yeah, it's a little bit more jelly than jam. But but then like the pits added in, I was like, beg your pardon. Like I would like to see the manager. Like I wouldn't. Like, it was like I nearly had a Karen moment. I was just like, I would like to see your manager. This is horseshit.
Yeah,
like, this should not exist.
It should not exist because nobody bites a pie. Nobody on this planet bites into a pie and expects there to be a cherry pit in it. I don't care if you put it on the menu.
You're just putting rocks in their pie. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, nobody does that. Nobody sorts through their pie bite to pull the pit out. Oh, that's terrible. Sort of related, but unrelated. I had a friend in high school who was an exchange student, and she was from Germany, and they had decided to make another one of our friends a cake, and she really liked cream cheese frosting. Yeah. So they made it, right? And it must have been around Easter because they also put, for whatever reason, they put Peeps on the top of the cake. But so what got lost in translation was the difference between cream cheese and sour cream. So,
oh no.
So they made this cake with sour cream frosting that was super wet because they used sour cream, and they put these Peeps on it, right? And so they were blue Peeps, and I remember because the color had leached out into this wet frosting, and it had these like blue purple streaks that ran down the cake, and it was kind of had made the rest of the frosting this sort of weird off gray purple color.
Not the most appetizing.
It was terrible. That's a cake that no one should eat. if you're thinking about experimenting with sour cream frosting, I mean, maybe you can make it work. But
there's a world in which I'm sure that works. But yeah, that's one you definitely want to, crunch the numbers for a couple decades before
don't just swap out cream cheese and sour cream.
Just don't hot swap and wreck people. Oh my god. All right, as we come to a close here, Albert, anything you want to plug, recommend, places people can find you, your content, or shout outs you like to give to friends or family?
Sure. So easiest place to find me is on Instagram. It's Ink and Monsters. The only
underscores between the
underscores.
ink and the ink underscore and underscore monsters.
Yeah. I post stuff on TikTok sometimes too. It's mostly like process videos, so a lot of like finished illustration and like finished product stuff on Instagram. If you're curious about process stuff, that's all generally on TikTok.
Got to go in the back of the kitchen, see how this duck is made.
Yeah, I think it's like fun content. I don't know why I don't put it in both places, but I just don't. I like somehow separating the two. So to like see like here's an illustration, here's it is a 3D model, here's it printing and printed and painted. And anyway, so that exists. Same username, Ink and Monsters. Shout outs to my fiance Megan and daughter Emma. Hi, love you guys. That's it.
All right, cool, man. Well, thank you, Albert, for being my guest today. And a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home, wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sabelliello. If you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And remember, folks, if you fidget with widgets and play all day, however will you have the energy to skate the great?